we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host, Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan. And we have a special guest here, Bob Kriegold, who is the author of the international bestseller. You ready for this? If It Ain't Broke, Break It. And Sacred Cows Make the Best Burgers. So, Bob, tell us about psychology when it has to do with sports.
Well, you know, one of the things that we did was I, along with Dave Megacy, who was a linebacker for the Cardinals, we started in 1972 either the first or one of the first sports psychology institutes in the country. And we used to go around. We've worked with Olympic teams. Dave was with the NFL Players Association. We did work with them. I did a lot of work. I used to meet regularly with Tony La Russa when he was with the A's and coached Olympic teams. So, you know, a lot of work. And I wrote a book called Inner Skiing, which is all about the inner game. And Ski Magazine sponsored us. It made the New York Times bestseller list, and they sponsored us for 5 years with ski clinics all over the world. Great gig. And so what I've been doing recently is I give keynote speeches at big major conferences, kind of motivational, and I use a lot of sports metaphors and examples as a way to talk about to people who are working about how they can excel in whatever job that they're doing. And recently I've been talking a lot about, you know, taking risks, breaking rules.
Well, I was going to mention that because I noticed on one of your videos you had there about Fosbury and how he was number one at the time that he invented the flop.
Well, you know, one of the things that I talk about is that these days it's really dangerous in business to keep doing the things that have always worked for you because the world has changed so fast. I mean, the digital era is like, changing the way we communicate, the way we get information, the way we buy products, the way we get entertainment, everything. So you can't use yesterday's thinking in today's game. And one of the things that I do is I talk about the difference between playing to win and playing not to lose. And one of the examples I give is that last year, the U.S. was playing Mexico in soccer and, you know, prelude to the World Cup. And Mexico was favored. We'd never beaten Mexico. And what happened is we went out there, we were aggressive, we were on the offense, we were being creative, trying new things. Boom, got a goal. We're ahead 1-0. That's what playing to win is. What happened, then they changed their strategy. And they started, let's maintain the lead. You know, let's do that. They started playing defense. Rather than trying to score, they tried to prevent Mexico from scoring. The whole thing didn't work. Mexico won 2-1.
Yeah, it's sort of like the best offense. The best defense is the good offense.
That sounds to me like broadcasting. That's what happens in broadcasting. You get a station that's working well, and they decide to change it because they don't think it's good enough, and then they find out, oh, we should have stayed with the original format.
So, Bob, you come ram-roaring in just to kind of preach staying away from the prevent defense, so to speak, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Hey, when you work with these coaches and with these athletes, is it that they're locked up in some method of thinking? They just and you just kind of like almost use a psychological key that kind of unlocks things and it kind of makes them see things a certain way, and then they just play better?
You know, that's the idea, definitely. I mean, it's not as easy as all that. But, you know, one of the things that I talked about a lot when I worked with the Expos when they were up in Toronto and then down in Miami and with Tony's guys, was I would talk to hitters. You know, here you have a baseball player. It's the hardest thing to do in any sport. And, you know, you have to be so focused when you are up at bat. Well, I would talk to them. What are you thinking before you go up to bat? Now, if you're thinking, geez, that guy struck me out last time in the curveball, I better watch out to that, then you're going to strike out again because you're not going to see the ball as well. You're going to be tense. You're going to be a little tight. You're going to try too hard, and you're not going to be really in that great zone where you're at your best.
You mentioned Dave Megacy. I didn't mean to interrupt, but you mentioned Dave Megacy, though, and that's a guy to me I would think that you could bounce some ideas off of here because he challenged a lot of the he challenged the NFL and wrote a book about it, a famous book. That
Dave
was,
and I used to get talks, and he was the bad guy and I was the good guy. And it was like if you watch the games today, and you watch sometimes, you see these hitters, they're swinging too hard. They're swinging for the fences. They're behind, and you get Pablo, and he just looks like he's going to swing out of his shoes, and you never do well.
It's like golf.
When you watch these guys and they hit great, they're it's a little less. They're not going for everything they can. They're swinging rather than at a 10, which is the top. Maybe they're at a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, but Bob, aren't there other factors involved in that? I mean, these guys, especially baseball players, some might be in a contract year, some might be pressing to justify the money they're making. Some are just in the old-fashioned, slump, and they're just trying to break out of it without the use of a slump buster. But that's for another show.
No, but
Loose
the
hands,
idea
though, right?
is
Baseball?
exactly what you're saying. What happens when you're in a slump? What happens when it's a contract year? Is you start trying too hard, and when you try too hard, you don't perform well.
And
Why did it work for Barry Zito? We've been on this guy for the last 5 years since he got that $126 million contract. Now all of a sudden we think Bruce, like last year and a half, he's like figured it out.
Well, the thing about pitching though, Vernon, and I know that our guest knows this too, as do you, Edward, that it's just one little adjustment you make, and you don't even know sometimes that you're making it, and one little small, subtle thing happens, and all of a sudden everything is working, and you don't know how it happened.
And same thing where it doesn't work. Something you change one little thing and it started to.
Well, Lincecum talked the other day about, I forget what it was, when somebody made an error or he threw it well. He said it threw me off. And it throws you off, and then what happens? You lose your concentration, you lose your focus, and all of a sudden it's that little thing. It's such a small difference between, being right in there, being in the groove, and being a little off.
I was going to say, too, that I think it's sad that athletes don't have more wisdom because it's obvious that when you get to be, and again, I'm aging myself here, but when you get to be a little bit older, you don't worry about things as much.
Yeah.
But the problem is physically you can't perform as well. So it's so so you can't hit it. But it's a shame. I think a lot of it is just youthful inexperience or youthful, for a lack of a better term, just impatience.
Yeah, these guys aren't old enough to even have any wisdom.
It's funny when you mentioned about Lincecum. You guys remember? I guess it was the 2010 World Series, and a shot gets hit back to Lincecum. There's a guy on third base, and he just like a little leaguer just runs him back to the bag and doesn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
Right. I remember that.
Actually, you're supposed to do that though. They tell you that if you get
release the ball.
But I mean, if the runner sort of hung up between bases, you run at him, and you kind of freeze it. That's what you've been told to do.
Yeah, but if you remember though, he ran him all the way back to the
Yeah, I do remember
back
that.
and he didn't throw the ball.
Yeah. Did they get him out though? No, they didn't.
About the situation that he forgot to know, to do what he already knew.
Hey, how about the athlete that's so afraid to make a mistake? Mistakes is all he seems to make.
Perils of perfectionism.
Yeah, baseball.
You're afraid to make a mistake. What do?
Yeah.
You try too hard, or you hold back and you don't give it your best shot, right? Because, I don't want to make a mistake, so I better be really careful. And if you're really careful, that ain't the way you play when you play your best.
Hey, Bob, give us a success story.
It's the same thing if you're giving a speech. If you're trying to make a sale, you try too hard, or you're a little afraid of saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. You lose the juice, you lose the energy, you lose the passion.
Hey, Bob.
You don't perform well, and sports and business and work and everything. It's just a metaphor for life.
Hey, Bob, I'm going to cut you off. Let me cut you off for a second. Vern's got a question for you when we come back from break about a success story, okay? Now, if you guys remember, the trivia theme is Rocky movies, all right? We have to go to the first commercial break. Here's the first trivia question. When Mickey told Rocky, "This guy's a wrecking machine, he'll knock you into tomorrow," which of Rocky's foes was he referring to? The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. When Mickey told Rocky, this guy's a wrecking machine. He'll knock you in tomorrow. That's not too bad, huh?
Yeah.
Which of
That's pretty
Rocky's, which of Rocky's foes was he referring
Burgess
to?
Meredith was the guy you were doing the
That's Mickey. Yeah, really. 888-660-4495. Make sure to include your name, your email address. Speak slowly. Spell out your email letter one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Okay, good. All right. Yeah, these segments go fast. All right. Yeah, we want to hear a success story